Twist of Fate on ZeeWorld, Friday the 25th of February 2022. Full update. Make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell to get notified for more updates. So without wasting your time, let's start our today update. Sushma tells Abby that Pragya can never love you. Abby says Pragya is staying with you since 2 years and you have kept her very well. Sushma says I am her mother. Abby says and I am her husband. He asks him to ask someone about the meaning of husband. He asks Sushma not to interfere between husband and wife. Sushma says Pragya is very happy without wearing Mangalsutra and Sindoor of your name, and you shall understand that she is very happy. She walks away. The groom Ashish and bride Pooja tell that they wanted to help Sid and Riya. Sid says we are about to go, but Marcy G stops us. We were about to tell, when we saw police. Marcy G says they got married in good Mahurat and tells that now her kids will get married. Riya says she will change her clothes. She is about to fall. Prachi holds her. Sid asks Riya to take Prachi's help, but Riya refuses and goes. Sid hugs Ranbir and says he is married now. Pragya calls her business partner and talks to him. She asks him to come to office in the morning. Her business partner thinks she scolded me and I didn't get angry. Why? He says she shouts at me as my boss and I get love for her. He says I like you, Pragya. Sid tells Ranbir that they are good people. Ashish and Pooja helped us and even their Marcy. He asks Ranbir why is he silent. He says you think that she is not right for me. Ranbir says you didn't show Riya on video call. Sid asks why did you leave Riya. Ranbir asks if she forced you to marry you. Sid says no. He says he feels like Riya is like Prachi's reflection. Ranbir says they are sisters. Sid is shocked and tells that it's okay. He says he wanted to marry Prachi's reflection and got married to Riya. Ranbir tells him about Pallavi's warning that she will throw him out if he doesn't marry with her choice. He says I don't want mummy to throw you out of house, you went against her. Sid says Pallavi Chachi is sweet, but she will not forgive me. He says shall I tell her that I love Riya? Ranbir says she knows that I love Prachi, but she didn't forgive me. Sid says let's go home and asks Ranbir and Prachi to come with him. He requests him to come and says Prachi will handle everything. Sushma comes home. Pragya says why you came late, as no meeting was scheduled. Sushma says she met Abhishek Mehra on road. A FB of their conversation is shown. Sushma says I felt like I should have not talked to him. Pragya says he is very stubborn. When someone tries to make him understand, then he doesn't listen. She says Alia and Tanu told that they have property papers, then what is that which Gautam gave us? Pragya recalls telling Pragya that he has headache. Pragya says party is going on in the house. Abby asks her to do head massage and feels great when she massages him. He praises her and talks romantically. Pragya says you are in romance mood. He says do the massage, we will romance later. Main fear bhi tumko chahunga. Plays, Abby says party can go on without me, but not my life, I always need you, you are my life and lifeline, and asks her not to leave him. Pragya says if I don't see you smiling at once, then my day don't end. He holds her closer. FB ends. Pragya thinks she was foolish to think that he will die without her, and was very happy now. She thinks to make him believe that she is not old Pragya. Abby sits beside a boy and thinks of Sushma and Pragya's words. Tum Hi Ho plays, as he recalls the moments he has spent with her. Abby asks God, when he got habitual to drink, he sent Pragya. He says Pragya was an epitome of beauty, but she shows attitude to me. He says Pragya hates me, and I don't know why. He coughs. Pragya comes there and offers him water. He says Pragya. It turns out to be his imagination, as the lady is someone else. Abby returns the water bottle and says he will drink water later. Pragya is still standing at the window and recalling Abby's words. She cries and smiles, thinking how he used to calm down her anger. Abby drinks and thinks about her. Kyunki Tum Hi Ho plays, he imagines Pragya and smiles. Riya going inside the room. Prachi goes behind her and gets emotional seeing her. Ria looks at Prachi and takes off her earrings. Prachi thinks of Ria's deal with her and then confronting her for romancing with Ranbir. She helps Ria take off flowers from her head. Later Ranbir asks Prachi what did Ria say. Prachi says she couldn't talk to her, was uncomfortable. She says she had thought to talk to her and sort out everything. He says Ria must have talked to you. Prachi says she didn't talk to her seeing her odd behavior, and says she behaved as if they are strangers and says she didn't show if she has any memories or not. Sid tells Ria that Pallavi Chachi will be very upset with me. He asks Ria to tell something. He says I can't say that my family will accept you soon and says give them some time. He says he should have thought about Pallavi. Ranbir calls Sid and says he got morning flight tickets. Sid tells Ria that they are going in morning. Pallavi opens the door and sees Ranbir and Prachi. She asks what are they doing here. Ranbir says Sid and asks her to see herself. Sid and veiled Ria comes there. Pallavi gets angry, recalling her words. BG asks Sid, did you get married? Pallavi signs BG to stop and says sorry, you people came on wrong address. Sid says Cha-Cha G please. Pallavi asks him not to dare calling her Chachi. Sid asks her to understand. Pallavi asks did you forget why we threw Ranbir out of house? She says we had told you when you came here. Our FB is shown. Vikram tells Sid that Ranbir is our blood, but he changed its color. He says I was like his friend, but he set his life alone. He says we gave her freedom to marry, and liked her too, but that girl betrayed us and married him. BG says they have come here for marriage. Pallavi asks her not to take Ranbir's side and says he would have married with our choice. She tells Sid that he will stay here as their son and not as nephew. She says if they did mistake, by trusting him. She asks if he will go against them. Sid hugs her and promises to marry with her choice. FB ends. Pallavi asks did you ask us before marrying this girl? Did this girl was my choice? Did I like her? Ranbir says it is not Sid's mistake. Pallavi asks him to shut up and says you are justifying his mistake. You are defending him as he did the same mistake as you. She tells Sid that he can't justify his act. Ranbir asks her to listen. Pallavi says I am standing at the same place as before, in a state of shock and completed betrayed. She says just girl and boy are changed, betrayal face is changed, but I am same. She says she can forget their mistakes, but can't forget that betrayal. She says she has kicked him out as she don't want to see Prachi's face. She tells Prachi if she remembers what she said. Her FB is shown. Pallavi tells that she is not her Bahu. FB ends. Pallavi says I had told you to stay away from my son, but don't know what did you do that he went to marry you, leaving his mandap. She says what I felt, you couldn't understand, as you are not a mother. She says you wanted to marry, haven't thought about us, about our home which will break. She says you married in a temple and have party and took blessings of people. She says we heard taunts from people for months, whom I used to tell that Ranbir was Mama's boy, and some people thought that I am not a good mother. She says they thought that I don't love Ranbir, but I know how much I love him. She says this is because of you Prachi, you came and ruined my family and world in just one jerk. She says she doesn't want to see her face as her face reminds her of everything. She says you changed my son before your marriage. Prachi says I never thought about this. Pallavi asks didn't you think how we will feel, if you will marry him? She says I told you clearly that I don't like you. She asks didn't I tell you? She says this means you think about just yourself and haven't thought about a mother, because of whom Ranbir is born. She says you didn't see that mother's 9 months and says not just 9 months, I bear pain for many months. Doctor had asked me to take care, but I used to take him in my lap and used to roam all day. She reminisces his birth and says he was my life and happiness, my everything. She gets teary eyes and says you came and changed everything. She says I want you to become a mother, and same thing shall happen with you, which happened with me. She says your son shall leave you for someone else and then you will understand. BG asks her to stop it and says you shall not talk such things. Pallavi says why. She gave pain to me. She shall understand about my hatred for her. Prachi says sorry and says she didn't do intentionally. Ranbir says everyone knows that you don't like her, and asks her not to say this. Pallavi asks then why did you bring her here? Sid says I asked them to come here. Pallavi asks what did you think that I will accept your bride if she asks me? She says if she can't hug her son, as she is in front of him, and he don't seems to be like her son. Vikram comes there. Sid calls him Chachu. Pallavi asks him to stop and says I will not change my decision, falling in emotions. Vikram asks BG to stop Pallavi. BG says okay and asks him to come to room. Sid tries to speak. Pallavi asks him to stop and says either family members or the servants are part of the house now. Prachi says I can understand your pain, as I am not a mother, but a daughter of a mother. She says my 7 vows are not big than your 9 months. She says you thinks that I have snatched your son, but you have more right on him than me. She says he stays with me in another house, but his heart is here. She says we are staying away since 2 years, but he remembers you every day. She says Ranbir always remembers your food, Papa's scoldings etc. She says if your pain is more than Ranbir's pain is also not less. She says he is living 2 lives, with you in past and with me in present. She says we can make the future better and asks her to become the reason and forgive Ranbir and Sid. Pallavi says this can't happen, even if you talk sweet and show yourself as innocent and good values girl, but your image can't change in front of me. Pallavi telling BG that whatever they want to do, they shall go to their home and do. Ranbir tells Pallavi that they came here as Sid asked him. He thought that, he says both of you speak your hearts, and tells Prachi that he can't see her insult. Prachi says he has changed after marriage. Ranbir says I am not changed, but you have changed. He says my relation haven't changed with you, it is still the same, but changed with Prachi. He says why are you turning your face from us, tells that Prachi didn't force me to marry, but I forced her to marry me. He says I went to temple that day and then told her that if she don't marry me then I will die. He says he forced her to marry me. He says when Prachi and I went to Bangalore. Prachi says when Ranbir came here and told me about you, I told that you can't marry without my consent, that's why they went to Bangalore and got Sid married to the girl whom I will never approve. She says they might have told you that I will permit him to stay here, and tells that they are taking revenge from her. Sid says my marriage is not related to them, let me and my wife explain. Pallavi says I don't want to know how sanskari, beautiful, or lovely she is, but I will not accept her. She says if you want to say this, then leave my house, take him along with you. Riya calls Pallavi and lifts her veil. Pallavi is shocked to see her and takes her name. She recalls Riya's suicide attempt and everything. She says Sid married you. Riya says they were explaining the same thing. She says none of us forget the past. She says even she was hurt. She says Sid got married to me and you can't change it. Pallavi says I will never accept the girl which is not my choice. Sid says you are upset with me as I married Prachi's sister. Pallavi says you didn't know what happened on the marriage day. Riya says she doesn't want to burden her shoulders with their past and wants to start afresh with her marriage. Sid says I got married to Riya with all the rituals, whatever happens in real marriage, tells that he had told girlfriend that he never had any girlfriends, as he always thought that he will befriend his wife. He says he witnesses the god and married her. Riya says I know you very well auntie, you are soft at heart and I am sure that you will search your happiness in your kids. She says whatever decision you take, we will accept from our heart. Pallavi asks Sid to tell whatever happened. Sid tells that he had seen Riya in the pub. Riya says she saw a girl putting drugs in his pockets. Sid says Riya saved me and stood by me. Pallavi asks why didn't you call me? He says he didn't get time. Riya says police was doubtful on us, and followed us. She says she stayed in Sid's hotel room. She thought to leave in the morning. Sid says then they found another pocket of drugs, which they flushed. Riya tells about her friend's call. Sid says we had to elope as we didn't have drugs. He says they ran and reached banquet hall. He says groom and bride suggested us to marry. Ria says I thought I shall marry Sid. Sid says we got married then and then the drug dealer was caught. Ria says then I came to know that I got married to Ranbir's elder brother. She says I became Bahu of the house, where I was about to come as Bahu. She says maybe this marriage was written in my destiny. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure you subscribe, and click on the notification bell to get notified for more updates. Like, comment and share. To change your